Audiences want movies that feel real. A growing trend at the 2026 box office suggests audiences are rewarding movies that emphasize practical filmmaking, real locations, and handcrafted effects over heavy CGI and virtual production. Recent hits like The Odyssey, Project Hail Mary, Backrooms, and Obsession all highlighted practical effects, physical sets, and demanding productions in both their filmmaking and marketing. Directors such as Christopher Nolan, Phil Lord, and Christopher Miller openly discussed avoiding excessive green screens and relying on real-world techniques whenever possible. Several major franchise films, including Supergirl, Masters of the Universe, The Mandalorian and Grogu, and Moana, drew criticism from audiences for looking overly artificial or overly reliant on CGI. Even Avengers Doomsday, despite its enormous anticipation, has faced online criticism that its footage appears confined to sound stages rather than delivering the cinematic spectacle audiences expect. Today's moviegoers care not only about the finished film, but also about how it was made. As AI-generated content becomes more common, stories about filmmakers enduring difficult shoots, building practical sets, traveling to remote locations, and using physical effects have become valuable marketing tools. Productions that showcase genuine craftsmanship and are increasingly viewed as offering something AI cannot replicate. Christopher Nolan summed up this philosophy by saying The Odyssey should be difficult, arguing that the challenge is part of what gives the film authenticity. Another notable trend is the strength of original, non-franchise films. Unlike 2025, when nearly every top box office hit came from existing intellectual property, roughly half of the current year's top 10 domestic releases are original stories. The Odyssey is also expected to join that group.
All right. I mean, I can tell you that if the Odyssey relied heavily on green screen and CG, it would probably gone a 1 out of 10 for me. I will give Nolan credit here, but the general statement here is audiences want real. They want good, but they would prefer real over CG heavy. Do you agree with that?
Well, I will say this, and Alan, you know this as well as I do. When we review indie movies, little small indie movies like Obsession or Backroom, right? Like those movies, the reason they resonate so much is they feel authentic. Sure, there's special effects and whatnot, but the authenticity is in the relationships, the way people act. They don't act like movie people. They react like real people in certain situations. And so much of the superhero stuff looks like AI slop. Even though they may not be using AI, the effects have gotten like noticeably worse. And I think they want movies that feel authentic, especially because so much of what we experience now is fake. I'm talking about, I don't mind seeing AI used for like memes or some joke stuff on like social media. But in movies, I don't think it's going to work. I mean, you saw the announcement that Elon Musk is going to do an Odyssey that's like loyal, that's going to be authentic to the poem, and he's going to use all AI.
Yeah, it'll look awful.
I think it's going to be terrible. I'm sorry. Yeah. You can augment special effects with AI. I don't think you can replace actors, not entirely, not for anything beyond a meme-like joke. But yeah, this is encouraging because that's the strength of indie movies. That's why Marvel, in their early days, hired mostly indie directors and let them, because independent film is very good at relationships, characters, those kinds of things. And then Marvel sort of adds the spectacle. But what indie film does well is authenticity.
Yeah,
and
I question how much this is true, because I feel like there's been several times where it was all done practically and people just thought it was CGI anyway, because we've been so like, yes, innately, I do think people want authentic things and they like when it's practically done. But I do feel like sometimes it's practically done and then people still think it's CGI. So you might as well have just CGI'd it. But I think that's just because CGI has regressed so much, or at least the people doing it, because they don't get chances, you know, constant changes. They don't get time to, you know, you got a year, make it perfect.
Yeah. I mean, I see a lot of this, you know, I mean, to me, movies and entertainment is art. And, you know, that's why you would much rather buy it like a handcrafted lamp or chest of drawers or something like that versus something that came off a factory assembly line. You know, if you had the money, yeah, you would pay for, you know, something someone made, something someone put time and energy into it, put creativity into it. And I feel like these tools that make things faster makes us more lazy. And I would much rather see a piece of art. I mean, I'll give Nolan some credit. He was trying to make art. You know, even my kid drawing things with crayons isn't quite art. But at least she tried, and you reward kids for doing stuff like that. And I believe we have to reward filmmakers who just understand that, you know, that there is an art to all of this, and that people are drawn to that and willing to pay a little bit more money for it. So, you know, ultimately, to me, a good movie is one that people connect with, and I think we connect with authentic, with real things versus stuff made on, you know, CG. CG has just ruined all of that because it's not real. And I think the reason why CG has declined over the last few years is, you know, back in the early days of Jurassic Park, you had people who really cared about how the final product, and they put time and energy in at least making that CG look as real as possible. And I feel like nowadays the tools are just too easy to use that people just don't pay that kind of attention, and it shows. Supergirl is the greatest example. I think the Fast and Furious, the last 6, just felt like they were animated films with live action people in front of it. And you know, I think in our minds we want real over fake, even if it looks photorealistic or not.
Yeah, I also think that's a case of them abusing physical effects houses or special effects houses where, you know, constant changes. Oh, okay, I know we wanted that scene, but now we want a whole nother scene of them doing this. And with Supergirl, they had 2 different cuts of the movie. So which one are we finalizing our special effects for? Yeah, I think it's both, basically. But yeah, it's definitely competing directions and not letting them have the time to really hone and lock it in. And then people quit, you know.
Yeah, I mean, there used to be the like ILM, these great special effects houses that you know, yeah, Star Wars wasn't real, but damn, ILM sure made it look real. And you know, they're making models and all the other things. Pixar used, you know, computer graphics, but Pixar used to have this standard of like excellence. And I just feel like for whatever reason, and the need to not, that this idea of excellence is not something any studio wants to strive anymore, because it's the money, it's that bottom line.
Yeah, but then we get a Godzilla, you know what I'm saying, -1, and they take the time and energy and they do all the tricks that you should know if you've been doing it long enough. So it's not that it can't be done, it's just the chances of it being done are low because there's so much meddling post-production.
Right. I mean, it's funny you mentioned Godzilla -1 because, you know, that movie was made for, they say that 12 million was too high. At the final number. You know, that looks so great and so real, and yet it cost him less than $10 million probably.
Yeah.